So Cole and I spoke last week, and we were talking a lot about wanting treatment, being forced into treatment. And I said in the video that like I didn't want it, like I was forced into it, and then someone commented on that video and says, "Well, yeah, then that still means you wanted it to some degree. Like you had X outcome force you into it, leading to you wanting Y." And my response would be, at that point, it became more of like what I don't want than what I want. Like I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to be a slave to drugs and alcohol for the rest of my life. But no, like I wasn't ready to go to treatment, ready to like do all the things that they were going to ask of me that I didn't know at the time. And then I just thought, to shed more light on this topic, I thought it'd be helpful if you shared part of your story or part of your journey, because we have very different stories there.
I guess what stands out to me with my family trying to get me to get sober, I mean, starting at 15 and then me getting sober at 25, so that's like a long time, was just like the slowly kind of ratcheting up, like the pressure, the boundaries, the coercion, if you want to call it that, of like, you know, when I'm 15, they can pretty well like force me to do stuff because I'm under their roof. I'm a minor, they're the adult, they're my guardians. So, and I don't even think it was like a thing. It never crossed my head of like, they can't make me go. It's like, I'm 15 and my parents are saying I have to go to this adolescent treatment center. So I go. And then at 18.
When you say an adolescent treatment center, was that like an inpatient or were you doing outpatient services at that point?
Both. Yeah, I went inpatient at 2 different places as an adolescent. Ironically, then as an adult, I went back to both of those places on the adult ward. So like I did the adolescent ward and the adult ward.
Do you remember about how long they were? Like
30 days.
They were 30-day places?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember at one, like my high school friend coming to visit me there. And that, I remember it like stood out of just like, this isn't normal, you know? Like I'm doing drugs to such a level that my friend that was like my bandmate, we played in a band together, all that stuff. And he's getting like dropped off by his dad to come visit his friend in an adolescent treatment. Like it just like, that was like, you had these moments sometimes where things click of just like all the justifications. Oh, everyone does this. Oh, this is normal, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes something kind of pierces that veil that's just like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
So I remember that. And then 18 was when my parents finally did like the hard thing that I think so many parents struggle to do, but they did it. And they said, hey, you're 18 now. I had like not graduated high school. I was supposed to take like an online class to finish high school and I wasn't working on it. And they said, you know, you can either go to this treatment center or we're going to have to ask you to leave. And I called them on their bluff and said, well, then I'm going to leave. And I think that's what parents are really scared of, is like, well, okay, if I just say that one thing, then they'll go to treatment. If I threaten them with like homelessness, essentially, then they'll go to treatment. But being ready for like, well, what if they say, okay, fine, I'll go be homeless. And so, yeah, packed a backpack and left for probably like 2 to 3 months. And things just got like rough enough that then they were able to circle back and find me and then offer me treatment again.
Where were you living for those like 2 or 3 months when you left?
In and out of like extended stay motels. There happened to be a guy that one of my friends knew who had just gotten out of prison. And so I basically got like set up on a blind date, like living arrangement with this guy who just got out of prison that was like, oh, he kind of doesn't really have a place, but he's got this extended stay that someone's paying for him to live in. So you could live in there with him. So we just kind of like hit it off and then did our thing. But that was like in and out. Like sometimes the room wasn't paid for and we just kind of have to rough it for a bit. And then we'd have to go back to it. And
brings up so many questions. So how old do you think that guy was that just got out of prison?
He was probably 22, 23 maybe.
So you're close in age. My head went to like, oh, it's a 36-year-old and you're an 18-year-old.
He might have been mid-late 20s. I don't even know that I ever asked. You know, just like crazy. We were just like, well, this is it. And this is what it'll be.
Yeah.
And I remember like, dude, just the insanity of that, of like putting on like my nicest clothes, like my nicest Dickie shorts with my nicest Jordans and like a collared shirt, and going to like walk 3 miles to the mall to then walk around the mall, like hoping a woman would notice me and like want to be with me, or a job was just going to offer to pay me a bunch of money. Like just so much fear mixed in with so much delusion. And like that was my life. And ultimately we'd like scam and rob and do whatever we could do to maybe scrounge up like $20 a day to then smoke a small amount of marijuana, maybe do a tiny bit of drugs, to where it was like, this isn't even the life that I like dreamed, you know, of like, oh, I'm going to leave my parents' house and make it on my own and da-da-da. But it was just so far from that. And I had all the phone numbers in my life like scribbled on a piece of paper that was next to the motel phone, because I think my parents turned my phone off. So like really held to it, turned my phone off, said I couldn't live there, didn't send me with a car, money, anything, just the stuff on my back.
Yeah.
And then they found through that friend who set me up with the mutual friend that I was living with, they got a hold of him to figure out where I was, circled back again like 2-3 months later and found me and were like, hey, the offer still stands. Do you want to go to treatment? And that's where I was like, okay, this really sucks. I'll go.
Let's talk about your parents for just a second. Do you think that they found and held those boundaries on their own, or do you know if they were working with someone that was kind of coaching them on how to hold those boundaries? Or
I think my mom was going to Families Anonymous.
Okay.
Like a support group for parents or just anyone who has a family member.
Yeah.
With addiction. So I think that's where that came from. I don't think it was Al-Anon. I think it was Families Anonymous. So yeah, I mean, they kind of did what I advise to parents most times, like textbook. And I think like there's two ways of looking at it, right? You can say the one way is they're just trying to force me to go to treatment. But I think like the more realistic, and it's also more palatable for parents, is like, no, you're establishing what you're going to tolerate in your home. Because at that time I'm like stealing from them, stealing their vehicles, driving without a license, doing drugs and alcohol, having people in their house they didn't want, like all this stuff that you just wouldn't let fly in any other situation.
Yeah.
If I had a friend who was going to come stay with me, it's like, no, you got to go, you know, but when it's your kid, you know, there's just a lot more you tolerate. So I think more focusing on that of like, no, you're establishing what you're going to tolerate in your home that you own with now your adult child who's still living with you because he's not launching.
Yeah.
And so like 2 for 1 if they end up going to treatment because of that, because they can't live there anymore. But if it's just 1 for 1, then it's like, hey, you get that like insanity out of your house where you're basically just kind of a slave within your own home.
Yeah, and oftentimes the parents are on different pages too on what one will tolerate versus another, and then that can lead to big problems just in their dynamic of the husband and the wife. And now mom wants to allow this, dad doesn't, or dad wants to allow this and mom doesn't, and now they're pulling apart or pulling away from each other.
Yeah, and a lot of like very intentional and purposeful splitting and manipulation on my part to turn them against each other, to get my mom to say, okay, we're not going to tell your dad about this, to get my dad to say, we're not going to tell your mom about this, like kind of turning them towards each other. Because then I could always say like, well, I'm confused. What is okay? Yeah. You tell me that it's fine.
Y'all are the crazy ones.
Exactly. Trying to flip it on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's so much like pulling apart of the family members on purpose just to get away with stuff and be able to keep doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Okay, so they circled back. They found you living with this guy who's older in an extended stay. They found you. They say, hey, the offer still stands. You want to go to treatment? Do you want to continue this way of life? And at that point, you say treatment?
I say, get me in the car. I want to shower.
Yeah.
And so I went up to Connecticut to a treatment center. And that was like my first like real deal adult treatment. 90 days, pretty involved therapy, group therapy. It's actually co-ed, which I feel like is not as common today, and very loosely co-ed.
Okay. So you jump from these 30-day attempts to a 90-day attempt.
And at the end of, they said 30 days to start. And then at like the end of the first 30 days, I'm like, all right, I did my 30 days. I'm ready to leave. And they're like, how about another 30? And so I'm like, oh, fine. And I do it. And then I remember getting to the end of that 30 days and I don't know if part of this is like ego. of like, I'm going to tell them I want to do 30 more days so that it's not them telling me that I have to do 30 more days.
Mhm.
Something weird with that. But so yeah, at that point, after 60 days, then I was like, I'm guessing you want me to do another 30 days. And they were like, hey, if you say so. It's like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
So I did another 30 and then I got to 90. And then they said, we think you should do like a longer term sober living. And so I went down to a sober living in Florida. And I probably did that for 6-ish months. But again, this whole time it was just waiting it out.
Mhm.
Didn't want to be clean, didn't want to be sober. This was like a punishment, a consequence that was put down on me. I just need to figure out sneakier ways. So even in treatment, I was like trying to figure out ways many states away from where I was that I could like get drugs into the treatment center. Got close a couple times, but nothing ever came through. And then in the sober living, same thing. And I mean, a lot of sober livings, and this one was probably maybe 50 to 100 people in it, like a converted motel with the pool in the middle, constantly changing in and out, people relapsing left and right, new people coming in, like didn't even recognize a lot of the milieu one day to the next because it's just like, where's Donnie? And it's like, Donnie went out and relapsed last night. Okay, well, who's that guy? Well, they found him in a bush this morning, so he's now in here. And so I think that it was like fast cycling, but to me, that meant that there were so many opportunities now that I could use and figure out ways to get away with it. So I remember even in like the first 2 weeks, I went to like a head shop and found they just had like, I think it was even labeled as just like legal ecstasy, legal heroin. And it's like weird concoctions of over-the-counter stuff that are supposed to make you feel a certain way. And so I would do those. And then GHB came through the place and I was doing that a lot. And that ended up leading to me having a seizure. I went to the hospital, almost got caught by the sober living, kind of played it off. Everything just kind of fell apart.
Can you explain what GHB is for anyone who's like, what the hell is that?
David, I could not tell you what it stands for, but GHB is like it's like a salt, and then they'll dissolve it down into water. So there were like water bottles of it going around, and you could just pour out like a cap full, and it's like almost kind of like a sedative, like a benzodiazepine, kind of mixed with like an MDMA, a little bit of like euphoric stuff going on. And yeah, just because of the way I am, like even like amongst the addicts, alcoholics who are like relapsing in the sober living, they're like, you're taking it too far. Like just do 1 cap. And I wanted to do 3 caps. And so guys are having to like carry me back to my room at night because I'm just like dead to the world, totally out, incapacitated, wouldn't know what happened to me. So yeah, even then, like taking it too far and doing triple C's, quercetin, cough and cold, like so cough medicine. I took like a whole box of that so I could get messed up. And just like getting away with this stuff, in this sober living.
So you weren't getting drug tested there?
I was, but everything I was doing
was under the radar. All right, so you go from this 90-day place in Connecticut down to Florida. How long do you think you were actually sober? Like, did you use within the first 2 weeks when you got to Florida?
So I was probably sober like 3.5 months.
Okay.
And never with any intention of being sober, staying sober, anything like that. It was just, all right, I'm here. It's going to be harder to use and drink. How do I get away with it? And I remember even one time we went to, one of the guys was like, we're going to go to Fort Lauderdale, which was like an hour away. And so I go and it's like all older guys. I'm 18. And so I'm going with these older guys, probably mid to late 20s. And they end up going to a strip club. So I'm there with them. There's like a buffet. And they're like, isn't this the life? This is what it's all about. And another one of those moments where you're just like, what am I doing? Like, this is so weird. And I remember one of them just casually orders alcohol. And I was like, what are you doing? You're like, just like, aren't you going to get caught or get in trouble? And he was like, they don't test for alcohol. And at that time, they really didn't test for alcohol. They do breathalyzers, but they didn't have that in urine. Or that was like maybe just coming out. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just all around me. And I'm not blaming it on the people around me. I went in there with that mindset.
Were there any other 18-year-olds in there? Or were you pretty much the youngest guy in this motel of people?
There were some other younger guys too.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely a minority. I would say it was like me and maybe 4 or 5 other guys.
Yeah.
that were that age. And then my roommate ended up like relapsing on Xanax and tried to steal my stuff and got kicked out, and just all the drama and chaos that goes, and people trying to get in fights with each other, and a lot of posturing, who's tougher, who's bigger, badder, kind of almost like could be like a jail kind of mindset in some ways. But got like really into working out for the first time in my life, lifting weights. That was my thing, was just like, all right, I'm like living this life in South Florida. How cool am I? I'm going to get my ears pierced. I'm going to start putting on muscle. I'm going to get my first tattoo. I'm going to buy cool Nike stuff. And this is just like my new life, temporarily, until I figure it out. And somehow I got through that program enough that I got to go to like a special house, because I worked for the sober living, learning how to do electrical work under another guy who lived there and did electrical work for the facility. And so I got to live in this like special house that was like only for like the most sober, deserving people.
Yeah.
All while not being sober or deserving.
Huh. So how long were you there total?
I think 6 months.
Okay.
Something around there.
So realist, like if you would have stayed sober, you could have put together 9 to 10 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you go back to Charleston?
Yep. The sober living fired me. And I don't know if they fired me because they knew I was getting messed up and they just kind of couldn't catch it. But they said that I was faking my hours, which I actually was not. I mean, I would admit it if I was, and, you know, I was not above doing stuff like that, but I actually wasn't. So I don't know what that was. If that was just they could kind of tell that I was somehow getting away with stuff and wanted to kind of cut me off, or what. But definitely brought it on myself with my behavior on average and in general.
Yeah.
And so once I lost that, then I called my parents and I was like, there's no way I'm going to find another job here. It's been 6 months. Why can't I just come back to Charleston? They caved. They let me come back to Charleston. And I remember even talking to people like when I was about to come back, saying like, get everything ready because I'm about to be back and we're going to get messed up, you know, like the second I get back. So that was like my mentality through that. And so the results shone through.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a whole lot of structure. There wasn't a whole lot of, like I was figuring out a lot of things for the first time in my life kind of by myself, you know, of like doing laundry and shopping for myself and working a job and paying bill. You pay your rent there and all that kind of stuff. I was really kind of, so it was decent for life skills. Definitely felt like getting thrown into the deep end, but just like sink or swim, dude.
Yeah.
And so figured out how to swim pretty quick.
So you go from South Florida, parents' cave, back into their house. So you're back into mom and dad's house at 19 at this point. How long does that last? If you're calling buddies, like, go ahead and get the rigs ready.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready to get high.
You know, you kind of go softer back into things. So it was like alcohol, marijuana, not straight back to like heroin or crack or anything like that. Telling myself all the sweet nothings I need to tell myself about, like, it's going to be different this time. I'm going to stay away from hard stuff, just do the softer stuff. But I think did quickly get back into like benzos and some like medication type drugs, opiate pills. I think my parents just kind of accepted it at some point of like, he's just, I mean, I shielded it as much as I could, so it probably didn't look like it was as much. But my dad always like came up with this rule that he still says to this day, like when he's talking to other parents who figure out their kids are doing drugs or drinking. And he was like, it's probably been going on for twice as long as you think it has, and it's probably twice as bad as you think it is. And I feel like that was definitely true for a lot of my using and drinking. It was like I could shield about half of it. And to cut it back of just like, oh, I got caught, like, oh, this was the first time. I've really been doing it for like 6 months. No, this is my first slip up.
Yeah. I feel like that's fair to say for someone who they like know that their kid has that addictive personality or has the opportunity to run with it, but maybe not as fair to say for everyone's kid.
No, yeah. It's not a good, just hard and
not
fast
a rule
rule.
of thumb. Yeah.
But that's just his thing, because that's his experience, you know, with me, was that like it was worse than what they thought and it had been going on longer than they thought. When they could finally get the truth, which is hard to get.
Yeah. And I would say that probably is true for a a lot of the people who are already at 15, 16 years old going to outpatients and detoxes and yeah.
Yeah. Versus there's a lot of people who get in too deep, go to their parents and say, this is what I've been doing. This is what's going on. I need help, or totally honest. But I think being like steeped in that lifestyle, behavior, all that since 15, like so much like morality just went out the window right off the rip, So like there just wasn't really any semblance of that, of like that I was going to be honest or forthcoming. It was always me against them. I need to like protect myself and my addiction as much as I possibly can, or they're going to use it against me. I was never going to tell them that I wanted to be sober, because then they were going to throw that back at me.
Yeah.
And say, well, you said you wanted to be sober, so we want to help you and send you to this program, whatever. So it just had to be this like constant fight and tension and lying and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. To this day, I'll still like stumble up and say things in front of my mom, and she'll be like, "What? You did that? I didn't know you were doing that."
Yeah.
And it's nothing that I mean to hide, but it's just like, "Oh, I thought you knew. Yeah, I was growing weed in your house."
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just like, "I didn't know you did that."
Yeah.
There's definitely some stuff like that, and I kind of quickly found out that my dad probably didn't really like care that much one way or the other. You can tell he didn't like to hear it, but it wasn't as big a deal. But my mom would almost like recoil of like, oh God, like I don't want to.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, and so it was like, all right, I'm going to try to not bring up stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's something with guys and their moms that like, I've noticed it's not just me. That like sons like to kind of rile their moms up and get them upset and tell them kind of crazy stuff. And I've noticed kind of a trend with that.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to your story, where you're at now. How do you get to what works for you? To what gets you long-term sobriety? So Florida doesn't work. Yeah, that's kind of a shit show.
Yeah, early 20s is just like in and out of other largely 30-day programs, Suboxone, methadone, more heartache, all the stuff that comes with it. But I don't think any like firm like line in the sand again of like, you need to get out or go here until I'm 25. And at that point, they did the same thing when I was 18. And they said, we got all your stuff at the door, ready to go today, right now. But you got to make a decision. But if you don't go with us, we're going to have to ask you to leave. Said I wanted to go outside, smoke a cigarette, and think about it. But that was more just to kind of like stall for a second of like,
maybe they'll change their minds.
Yeah. Or like, can I smoke one more joint? Or like, is there anything I can do to just kind of like get away with this? Prolong it, push it off, like just for 1 more minute, 5 more minutes. But I kind of knew. I mean, as soon as they said it to me, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to go.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I knew what it was to go figure it out on my own. And I knew that I just wasn't built for it. And I didn't have the resources to do it. At that point, I really didn't have friends, a girlfriend, a job, money, a license, a car, like all the things you would need to like succeed in the world. I was fresh out,
Yeah.
So when that time when it came through, it was like, let's go. Now the whole way there, I looked up reviews on the place of like, look what people are saying. It looks like it's terrible. Like these people know they were there. Doing everything I could to like,
classic Lucas fashion, doing all the research,
hoping that maybe they'd get halfway and be like, oh my God, read that review again? Wow. I guess we should better turn around and go back. So it's like, all right, that wasn't going to work, but I was still going to try. So got there, did treatment, same thing. They said 30 days. I did nothing for 30 days and was just like, I'm just doing 30 days. I see that a lot with the guys that we work with too, and I can relate to it a lot of like wanting to turn like merit-based programs into time-based programs, because like I can do 30 days. I don't know if I can do all this like level 1 workbooks and meet with my therapist and be open and vulnerable. Like that's another thing. But 30 days I can do standing on my head. So I did 30 days and I didn't do anything else but 30 days.
Yeah.
And then that's when they pulled it on me and said, you're going to finish that program is what you're going to do. Or the offer still stands that you don't have to stay there. You can go figure out whatever it is you want to do. But we really want you to finish the program. That's what we think is going to be best for you. And they got kind of short
And now you're in a foreign place too.
Now I'm in
Let's
Asheville.
throw that in there.
Yeah.
Is that now you're in Asheville, North Carolina, where you don't know many people.
Yeah.
You don't know the landscape.
I didn't have anyone at that time that's going to drive from Charleston 4 hours up there to pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then also it's like even moderately healthy people in my life, who's going to drive 4 hours to pick me up to leave AMA from treatment to what, go stay with them on their couch and be the menace that I am in their life? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
even people who are using and drinking kind of had enough sense of like, I'm not going to invite that chaos. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big factor of like, well, now I have to be homeless in Asheville and I don't know anything about up here.
And it was getting cold, right? Was it starting to get cold while you were? I can't remember what time you went through.
I went in March, so it was definitely very cold my first like month or two.
But it was warming up.
Yeah, but after that 30-day mark, yeah, it was definitely like, can I go be homeless in Asheville in nights that are getting down, you know, in the 20s?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another, I wasn't used to that in Charleston.
Yeah.
It doesn't get to the 20s in Charleston anytime.
Yeah.
So offer still stood. So then it was like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to do this thing. So I begrudgingly did it. Still had points where I was trying to leave and kick my heels up and push back and see if I could get him to cave and test different things. They're not feeding me. They're not letting me have my clothes. I don't even do therapy, you know, all the different angles to try to like whittle this program down in my parents' eyes so that they would come pull me and say like, something's not right. This program must not be what we thought it was. And they're like hurting our kid. None of that was going on. I mean, yeah, it's wilderness treatment. Is the food 5-star and great? No. Was I being starved? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Were the socks and the clothes the most comfortable? No, but it's like trail clothes for hiking. So there's like a kernel of truth to everything, but definitely not to any like malicious end that I was trying to push it to.
Yeah.
So finally get through it, finish, got to like level 3. Maybe there was like a level 4 and I think I only got to level 3, but like satisfied what they wanted me to do. And so then they talk about sober living, same thing of like, you know, I was like, all right, I did the program coming back to Charleston to y'all's house, right? And they're like, no, you can go to sober living. We've got 2 different places. You can talk to them both. And so again, it was just like, all right, I guess I'm going to go to sober living then. Still not gung-ho on treatment at all, or like recovery at all. But so I picked like the sober living that was attached to the treatment center I went to, and go there. And it's very similar to what Greenville Transitions does. And so high structure was what I needed at the end of the day. And young guys, which was like the first time I think that I've been surrounded by like only young guys that were like really doing it, like had sponsors, working steps, had accepted it. Were like, no, I think this is for me.
Some of them.
Not everyone, but enough to like matter.
Yeah.
Enough to matter and be like, okay, if that guy can do it, maybe I can. This guy, because there was like one guy there, Joey, who was, when I got to treatment, I was new and he was like just about to leave to go to that sober living. So he was always like 2-3 months ahead of me, and just seeing him and like being like, all right, I could be like that guy. Like I could have what he has.
Yeah.
I could want what he has. So by the time I got to the sober living, he's a couple months into there, already settled in, has a job, doing this thing where I'm like, man, maybe I could do this. And so, yeah, I would say probably a month into that sober living. So about at the 4-month mark, sober wise, was when I was like, yeah, I'm going to give this a shot. And I'm just going to see. And if it blows up and it doesn't work, I can always go back. But if it works and I'm happy, then it works and I'm happy, and we'll explore what that looks like.
Hold on. So just rewind a little bit and focus in on this. But you were in the treatment, the wilderness treatment, for how many months?
76 days.
76 days there.
Yeah.
And then you go to the sober living that was attached to the treatment. And around how long there before you made that decision of like, I should give this an honest shot?
Probably like a month and a half. I think it was
into
right
that.
Into that.
Okay.
So I think it was right around the 4-month mark total.
Yeah.
That I was like, and increasingly when I got to the sober living, more and more open to it. It wasn't like there was just one moment where I went from the day before of like, I'm not doing this at all, to the next day being like, I'm gung ho and all in it. but like gradually getting there. And I think it got to like finally that tipping point of like 50-50, where it went 51 at 4 months of like, all right, I'm leaning more now towards doing it than not doing it. I might as well. I'm here. And so like got a sponsor, started working steps, got a job, did the stuff that I needed to do with a lot of resistance along the way, you know.
Yeah.
But
And then how many days total did you spend from that first day of wilderness treatment? So going into that treatment center to finishing that, going into that sober living. And then you moved out of that sober living. You went to another like halfway house in the area.
Yeah, like a step down house.
How much time did you spend in a structured sober living environment?
I want to say like 9 or 10 months.
Okay.
Was before I was moving out onto my own.
Into your own apartment.
And I even rushed that probably a little bit in the last stage. Because, you know, such like a... Yeah. I was supposed to move out of that step up house with a roommate that I had been with at the sober living house. I think he had done the treatment too, but he was further ahead of me. So like we both kind of ended up at the same step up house. And then we had plans we were going to move out together. And I think like a week before we were going to move out together, he pivoted and did something else. And so then I'm like, well, I still have to move. Like I just couldn't change the plan and be like, okay, back to the drawing board, stay here for a bit. Everything's good here. It was like, well, I still need to move out next week.
Yeah.
So then quickly decided to move in with a woman I was dating at the time, which not a great idea, obviously. But just kind of forced it.
Yeah. And even that went south.
Yep, that went south too.
But I know from just being around you at that time that you just leaned in a lot heavier to your support network. When that relationship, that living situation wasn't going well, that kept you,
Yeah.
It seemed like it kept you doing okay.
Yeah. I would say for like the first time in my life, during that relationship, I like still kept my relationships with friends and didn't go so just like all in to just this romantic relationship. So then when it did go south, I still had people around me that I could go lean on and hang out with, and that it wasn't so foreign of just like, what's this guy calling me for? I haven't heard from him in 6 months. It wasn't like that. So it was like, oh, I just heard from him last week. Now he's going through a tough breakup. Yeah, let's go see a movie. Let's go to a waterfall. Let's do whatever.
Yeah.
So that was big for me.
Yeah. I love picturing that as the support network as columns. And, you know, when you're building a structure, when you're laying out your foundation, you're not going to just put one column up, which would be like if you put everything into that one girl, the female that you're moving in with, and you're dumping all your emotions, your fears, your problems, struggles, your good times onto her. It's a lot to dump onto one person, and that column may crumble to the ground. But if you can build out that support network, and now you have a sponsor, a mentor, a therapist, you know, now you have a ton of columns out here holding your recovery up. When one crumbles, you still have a lot of others to rely on. And I think that's just a good picture to put in people's minds, especially someone that's young getting into recovery for the first time, of, hey, this is why it's important not to focus all of your attention into this, like the boy or the girl that you're wanting to just like dive all into that relationship 100%. It's so important to keep your support network intact.
Yeah, that is a really good analogy and like a way of visualizing it. But I think that like the addict, like alcoholic in me, just always wants to hyperfixate on one thing that feels really good to hyperfixate on, you know? And so whether it's a woman or a video game or gambling or drugs or alcohol, like whatever it is, I will like put everything into that one column to the exclusion of all the rest of the architecture, and then just like end up really shooting myself in the foot because of that.
Yeah.
So I have such a drive to just have one column. So it's like hard to say like, all right, but let's make sure we have another here and another there. That's like when I'm like, all right, Lucas, be healthy. Be healthy. Be healthy. Be normal, please.
Yeah.
And then trying to like make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to a little snippet of a podcast the other day, and it was of a D1 recruiter, basketball recruiter. And I guess this guy, I didn't know who it was, but I guess he does very well at his job and recruiting kids to come in. And they were asking him, like, how are you so good at this? What makes you so good at recruiting? And what he said was, I do a good job at knowing the difference between the kid that wants to eat and the kid that's hungry and
Mhm.
starving. And I always go with the kid that's starving.
Mhm.
And it's like the kid that wants to eat, he might like walk into the kitchen a few different times, peer into the fridge or the pantry, close them up, go back to the video game that he's playing. The kid that's starving is going to go once. They're going to get serious. They're going to pick out what they can craft a meal out of, and they're going to make it happen.
Mhm.
And then I switched that mindset into recovery. I'm like, God, how do you get a young kid hungry? How do you make them hungry? How do you like get them to a starving point
Mhm.
versus and I think we both went through it early on, and you kind of touched on it saying like, yeah, I had that tipping point where I just went from 51% instead
Mhm.
of 50% of me wants to be sober, 50% wants to go back to my old way of life. Eventually 51% wanted to be sober. At that point, you're still like, you want to eat. You're still
Mhm.
peering in the fridge and the pantry,
Mhm.
but what gets you hungry? What got you to the other like 25% more the other direction? That 70, 80% of me wants to be sober. And now only 10% wants to go back to this old way of life.
Mhm.
And at least when I think through that, it goes back to success. I need to be able to
Mhm.
see that I can be successful in this way of life
Mhm.
because that's what makes in all things, in my career, in my relationships, in my family dynamic. Like I need to know that I can be successful there. And once I realize that, I'll never want to go back here.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I think that it's time and success. I
mhm.
like accomplishments because that's time
Because it takes time
to
for
get there.
success to
Yeah,
happen.
time, and I would say like with time and accomplishments, what ultimately comes is confidence and security, and
Hmm.
like those two things are like okay, because now my picture is different, right? So like anytime in early recovery, I would always want to look at the best day ever using drinking, everything lining up perfectly, and be like, okay, that's what my life will look like if I go back to using drinking. And then I look at my worst current day or just my average current day, that it's like life sucks. Dopamine and everything in my head's out of whack, like just from drugs and alcohol, let alone like I'm in sober living and I'm being told what to do and I don't have any freedom and nothing's going right for me. And so like comparing those two pictures is like, well, yeah, I'm going to go back to in my head using and drinking, which is I'm the poster board for that is my best day using drinking.
Hmm.
And I think like getting more time, my days are then better. And when I eventually get to my own freedom, where it's like, all right, I'm choosing to be clean and sober because I'm choosing it, not because anyone's forcing me, or sober living is saying I have to go to a meeting. Like just getting out of that mindset of like I have to versus I get to, or I have to versus I want to,
Hmm.
I think is like a very like empowering thing of just like, all right, I'm choosing this now.
Yeah.
And now it's like, why am I choosing this? Okay, I'm choosing this because my life is better. And now I
Hmm.
can compare like, my best days, and I really have best days now that are in my recovery. They're like things are going well. I'm having more success in almost every area of my life than I've ever had.
Hmm.
Like that's on accident. That's a coincidence. That just happened to happen after I get 6 months sober, leading into like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, life just keeps getting better. What, because I hit 25?
Hmm.
No, it's because I got sober and I started changing my life and changing the way I think about things and altering my perspective on things. Like all of that kind of adds up to give me this better life. So then I just have to be honest with myself of like, okay, so the way I was living before that was not working.
Hmm.
It wasn't good. It wasn't working. And I got to have enough humility at the end of the day to admit that. And that was a big thing for me too, was just like the ego humility of like, no, I'm not going to say I was wrong or that I made the wrong call or whatever, or that
Yeah.
like, better. And because in my mind, it was like, I was going to have all these people, my parents, whoever were like, we told you so.
Yeah.
We
That
told
was
you if you just get sober, things are going to get better.
yeah.
You never listened, but look at you now. Weren't we right?
Yeah.
And then like that killed me to just like have to admit that.
That they were right this whole time. This is
Mm-hmm.
all I had to do, and not all because it was tough. It's a hard journey, but they were right, and it almost did me good. This kind of sucks to say too, or it's probably not fun to hear for others out there, but it was almost good for me to hear the guy say, because I had those people pop up in my life during my addiction and early in my recovery journey that were like, this kid doesn't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm.
He's never going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Or a therapist kind of hint towards, oh, you're going to really struggle with this. And then I would turn it into like, well, I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
I can be sober.
Mm-hmm.
When it got switched to that mentality
Mm-hmm.
versus the, parents just telling you like, you got to get clean.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get clean. Maybe they should have told me 5 years prior,
You'll never
like,
make it.
You're going to be a shithead for the rest of your life.
Yeah. There's something about that of like proving people wrong. I don't know if I had as much of that, unfortunately. Sometimes I wish I had a little more of that.
Yeah.
Of like someone telling me I can't do something, making me want to do it. But mine was just much more like letting go of that narrative that, no, from 15 to 25, I struggled because my parents are on my ass. People aren't being nice to me. The world's holding me down. My high school teachers never thought I'd make it. Like it was all that. None of it was me. That's why that 10-year period sucked.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to it's the best and worst thing ever. To admit that I was the one causing that for 10 years is tough, but it also means that I'm the one who can change it.
Mm-hmm.
If I change, the things around me will change. And so then going forward, it's like, it just put the power back in my hands to say, all right, dude, you go do something different and see what happens. And I started doing stuff different and stuff happened.
Yeah.
And I got a better job and I got better opportunities and good friends started, like all of a sudden people around me were like good.
Mm-hmm.
And they like really cared about me and they wanted the best for me. And they like shared these new morals and values with them of like, yeah, dude, we're not going to lie. Like that is messed up that I lied to that guy. And they're going to call me on that. And I'm going to call them on that. And like, I just had I experienced the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Of you co-sign each other's bullshit. You scheme against each other, you manipulate, you lie, you're dishonest all the time. Like it was just a total flip end of the coin.
Mm-hmm. You had a mentor tell me early on, it was when I was maybe 3-4 months clean and I was just so fixated on finding a girlfriend and dating and having sex again, getting the dopamine rush that way. And he was like, David, don't do that. He was like, as we're working together, I don't want you like really for your first year to get into a serious relationship or try. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why would we do that? That sounds crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody needs to find love in life and you're crazy. And he's like, well, David, I think you're a really sick person still. Like I know 3 months, 4 months, it sounds like a long time, but you're sick. And like, if we can get you really healthy, you're going to attract really healthy people into your life. And that was one of the most true statements that was ever made to me in early recovery that I just could not see. I wasn't capable of seeing how much better my decision making would be later down the road, how much better people I would attract into my life later down the road, as long as I continued this path of like sobriety and trying to do the next right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that was I'm glad that I took that advice. That was a big turning point.
And it all becomes like so much more apparent to you also. And not to be like judgy of other people or anything, but there'd be someone at the sober living that like you could just kind of tell like this guy's not with it. He's not about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try with him, but ultimately kind of knowing like I don't know if I'm going to let him in.
Yeah.
Because like I don't want that in now. Now I want. So like I could kind of notice the people that I didn't want in my life while they were still further away before I ended up living with them, dating them, working for them, whatever.
Yeah.
So kind of like improve my radar a bit with being able to tell the people I didn't want to have in my life that weren't good or healthy for me before it got to a bad point. Mm-hmm. And then also like a magnetism towards the people of like, man, I want that guy in my life. I want that guy in my life. I want this job in my life. These things are good for me.
Yeah. And so just to bring this all back home, to circle back around, and again, just for families to see how different this can look for different people. But, you have a guy that I'm talking to, Lucas here, that tried treatment, different styles and types of treatment in the teens, 13, 14, 15 times before something stuck into a long-term recovery journey. And then me, who asked for help once. I went to one treatment and it stuck. But we still, even up to the last journey in treatment, we had our trials in those, to where I don't share this a lot, but so I did like 2 to 3 months in treatment. And then I needed to make a call to move into a sober living. And so I did my research, and my mom kind of agreed, like, hey, if we'll let you pick the place if you'll go. I literally get on Google and I type in sober living / snowboarding, and a place in Asheville popped up. And I was like, and I looked at their website. It looked like they took their guys to the mountains sometimes, or that they would at least have the option to go to the mountains and snowboard or ski. So I was like, as I was thinking through it, that was like the first thing that I wanted to know is like, can I go do cool stuff like snowboard and ski? But the second thing that hit my mind was I know people in Asheville. And if I need a back door, if I need an exit from this lifestyle, then I have it. I could call them, I could get high, and I could make it happen pretty easily. So I was still at that 50-50 mark, the guy who wants to go in the kitchen and eat. I wasn't hungry yet as I was making that transition into Asheville. But similar journeys, but it could happen the first time, it could happen the 16th try.
Yeah, but I'd say the biggest similarity between our stories are the boundaries that our families held.
Yeah.
Like I see that so often as the predictor for success of families continuing to hold strong boundaries, not just for their loved one to get better, but also for them to get better and for them to start healing and figuring out like, okay, what was this whirlwind that was just in my life for 5 years? And do I need to like tolerate it? Do I need to have it down my hallway? Or are there other ways that I can help, or that I can, unfortunately sometimes have to kind of cut ties and tough love, whatever you want to call it. But it's like more for protecting you than a lot of times the byproduct is the other person will get better, but sometimes not for a while. That first time that I was 3 months out there, I'm sure that wasn't easy on my family to go to bed every night not knowing where I was or what I was doing, when what they really wanted was for me to accept to go to treatment. So
I think another big factor with you, it sounds like your mom and dad were finally able to like get on the same page and become like a chain link. Like there was no breaking them in their decision to like say, hey, you're going here or you're homeless. Nope, we're not coming to rescue you. Oh, can't afford your first rent payment. Like tough, figure it out. Like they just started to hold boundaries and they were on the same page with that. And with me, unfortunate, but maybe fortunate in some ways, like my dad had just passed away. So I lost this dynamic where I could manipulate one versus the other and kind of split my parents and tear them apart, to where my dad had passed away. Now it's just my mom calling the shots. And it's like, nope, not coming to rescue you.
Nope.
And even though I asked to go to treatment, first day in, I'm like, come get me. Big mistake. I want to get high. She's like, sorry, give it another day. And give it next day, give it another day, until she could say, give it a week, give it a month. And that just timeline kept stretching out to where eventually I got it.
Yeah.
And God, I wish I could just pinpoint one little thing, but it was so many things that led to me getting sober and staying sober for a long period of time.
Yeah. It takes a village.
Yeah.
And yeah, even with the boundaries, and I would say this for other people, but I'll just say it for me and my family, or my family and I. But because the boundaries were so wishy-washy and so malleable for so long, they had to get really strong for when they finally held them, because that wasn't like normal to me.
Yeah.
So once I heard it, it was like, okay, if I just need another angle. Okay, if I give it 2 weeks, I'll say it again and then they'll break. Like, I didn't believe it because it had been so wishy-washy for so long. And I feel like I see a lot of parents and family that struggle with that, where they're like, we put down the hard boundary and he's just not believe. It's like, why would he believe you? Yeah. Why would I believe my parents? They had always caved. They'd always given in. They'd always given up. So it's just a matter of time, or me saying the right thing at the right time, or having the right complaint, or painting the treatment center in just the right negative light, that they'll cave. And so even them holding really good, super strong, short sentence, like just, we believe that you're where you need to be, and that's where we're supporting you to be. Like, it was just like, that was it. And that still took like a month for me to finally, I remember having that click of like, shit, they're serious.
Yeah.
Like I'm not getting out of this. My only way through this is through it. It's not around it.
Yeah.
It's not running away from it. I got to actually go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And when that clicked, it was like, okay, I'm going to have to do whatever I'm going to have to do. And that was a big first step.
Yeah.
Then it's like actually convincing me and me getting it. And another thing that you said, something that made me think of, is when you like have those back doors initially, like, okay, but if anything goes wrong, I still have this person in my phone, or I still have that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I don't think it happened overnight, but like my life in the beginning, like keeping certain drug dealers' numbers in my phone and stuff like that, versus today, like my entire life is based around recovery. You know, it's what I do for like a living has to do with it. My wife's in recovery. My parents, obviously, and all my family, like it's very important that I'm in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
My friends all know that. Most of my friends are in recovery. Like, there is no, like they say that, I know this is like a really commonly used example, but like when Vikings came over to the US to explore, they would burn their ships, so that it was like, there's no option to leave. We have to make it work here.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that it'll get hard, the winter will come, whatever, and people will start talking, hey, maybe we go back to Iceland or Greenland or wherever. And I feel like in recovery, that's important too, of like today, all my ships are really burned. You know, and it's not to say that I can't start to construct a new ship and get some ideas going and sail back to what I was doing, but it'd mess up a lot of stuff in my life. It would not be easy.
Yeah.
I'd have to knowingly be like, all right, I'm about to torch my marriage, my children's lives, my family's life, my business, my friends. Like, I'm ready to throw away every single thing in my life, because all those things I have today because I'm in recovery and because of recovery in general.
Yeah.
So I feel like getting to that point is like a huge predictor, I think, for like longer term success of when you really get there to where it's like, I am all in.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know if today that means that I'm like hungry. It feels like I was always just eating.
Yeah.
Just snacking. But that I got really comfortable in whatever kitchen that was, eating and snacking, and I do not want to leave.
Yeah.
I'm where I need to be. I like eating here. Food's good.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking through that, I was thinking back to, you know, you just kind of buying your time in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that was like a longer treatment stint, that was like 90 days in this treatment in Connecticut down to Florida, but you're still in this mindset of like, I can just wait it out. I can wait it out and eventually I'll get out of here. And would you say that the biggest thing changed between that time and then when in Asheville, when you actually got sober, was it the community? Was it seeing the Joeys around?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was young people my age that I could identify with, that I was like, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
If that guy's doing that, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And people that I wanted what they had.
Yeah.
Versus in Florida, it was such a hodgepodge of people. And a lot of it was my perspective, and just like at that time, 18, again, I saw a guy that was like ripped, had tattoos, women loved him, was popular. Like, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys weren't necessarily doing the deal at that time, at that place.
Yeah.
So I think like what I thought was cool had kind of changed,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe softened a bit to be more like, well, that guy's got this and he's really fun to hang out with, and less all the superficial, like external things of he looks like this, he likes this music, he has these tattoos. That's the definition of cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I am enjoying seeing more of is I feel like more business people out there, business coaches that are actually marketing on social media platforms and YouTube, Instagram, are getting honest about their lifestyles and saying that, you know, my friends ask me to go clubbing with them on the weekends and I turn it down because I have stuff I want to, like if I want to be super successful, I need to like stay sharp and stay on the grind. And I have this meeting on Saturday morning and I'm really loving seeing that, because that's another tool that we can show guys and girls that we work with of like, hey, we want you to they want to be successful. At the end of the day, who doesn't want to be successful in their relationships and their job? And people want to suit up and show up. And I do think, especially in the 90s when we're watching MTV, Cribs and BET, like all you see was like this lifestyle that just seemed like the party could be done and you can still have all of the success and fame and money, and it's unrealistic.
Yeah. Lavish.
Yeah. Like if you would have asked me when I was 20 what the rest of my life looked like, it was weed was going to be legal soon in Georgia, which I would have thought in the next year or two. By 22 or 23, it's legal, and I'm the biggest drug farmer in the state by that time because I've honed my craft, and just delusional. Yeah. But yet I couldn't like wake up at a decent hour. I'm partying all night, doing drugs all day. Like my life was a mess. Yeah. There was no way I could be a successful farmer. You know what it takes to be a successful farmer? You have to wake up with the sun.
Oh yeah. It's like really
like that is hard work.
Going at it.
Yeah. Not a chance. I was delusional.
Yeah. And even that with like the Friday, Saturday night thing, it's interesting. I go to the gym on weeks that I'm on it, Monday through Saturday. And Monday through Friday, I go at 5 a.m. And the amount of people that are there at 5 a.m., it's surprising. You know, when I'm there from maybe 5 to 6:30, and there's probably 15, sometimes even 20 people in the gym. Saturday morning at 7 a.m., so 2 hours later, I am almost always one of the only people there. Maybe one other person. Yeah. And what's the difference? People go out Friday night. They don't go to the gym Saturday morning. And maybe that's just a schedule thing or whatever thing, but that always stands out to me of like, I do different things on Friday nights that leave me able to go to the gym on Saturday morning, even later than I normally would, and still be one of like the only people there.
I'd be curious if you went at 5 a.m. on Saturday, if you still run into any of the crowd.
It's not open. It opens at 7 on Saturday.
Okay, got it.
So on Saturday, that's the earliest I can go is 7.
Yeah.
And there's just nobody. And even like 7:30, 8, 8:30, no one.
No one's rolling in. That's nice.
I don't know what it is.
Have the whole place to yourself.
It's really nice. And yeah, I don't know what it is. I attribute it to that, but it could be 100 other things. But it's always stood out to me as interesting.
Yeah.
Of like, why is nobody here?
Yeah. Rest days.
Yeah. Or, you know, the night that you get to go out.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, you can be disciplined and do whatever. But then Friday night, you don't have to wake up Saturday morning. So you can go out, drink, party, do whatever. Yeah. Or you're just on a 5-day-a-week workout plan and Saturdays aren't a part of that.
Yeah.
It could be a bunch of things. It just always stands out to me.
Yeah. And for anyone out there, like even someone who doesn't struggle with drugs and alcohol and they just like to drink on the Saturday nights, like you still have an it. Like if you don't drink on Saturday night or on Friday night, you still get a leg up.
Yeah.
You know, you don't wake up with a massive hangover that makes you want to stay in bed until 10, 11 a.m. And
what goes up must come down.
Yeah.